Hello everyone, I'm Scuffed, and this video is gonna be a recap of the March Kerbal event held in Fredericksburg, Virginia by LEGO Goated. I'm gonna give y'all some pre-event info, and then I'm gonna play through all of Catastrophe's and Impact's fights. For some reason, YouTube hates me, because every time I create video chapters, they just get deleted. So I'm just gonna put timestamps for all of the fights in the description. Without further ado, let's get started. A couple of weeks before the event, Technic Engineer, the builder of Impact, wanted to register Impact for the Kerbal event, but he was not going to be able to make it in person, so I offered to compete for him and he agreed. Fast forward to the week right before Kerbal. Impact was way overweight because of the motor penalties, and we needed to get it down to 862 grams, and it was currently 907. Technic Engineered removed about 30 grams from Impact before he handed the bot off to me, so I had to remove another 15. I got started by swapping to thinner wheels, which already got us underway by removing around 20 grams, so I could have just stopped there, but since I would be competing with this thing, I wanted to make some changes to it to ensure that I wouldn't sell all of my fights with it. The front armor was scrapped, and it was redesigned to be lighter and stronger, and the new front armor also had additional fork mounts built in. I also designed some new configurations for Impact for vertical spinners and horizontals, and I redid most of the bracings to make them lighter and more efficient. Catastrophe got a new configuration for top attack bots, and also got some new built-in fork mounts for the anti-horizontal wedges. All the other changes were just small upgrades to reduce the weight. Now I'll explain the format for the event. First, there would be 3 preliminary rounds to determine the seedings for all of the bots that moved on to the bracket. The bracket would be a top 12 double elimination bracket, meaning that you had to lose twice to get eliminated. Since there was only 12 bots at the event, both Catastrophe and Impact were guaranteed to get into the bracket. Now that that's out of the way, I'm going to show y'all our fight schedule. Nick allowed us to pick one of our 3 preliminary fights, and Technic Engineer and I both picked Phobos, the Season 2 Kerbal Champion, as one of our first matches. Impact's fight schedule was against Bruin, Poppy, and Phobos, and Catastrophe's was against Pain, Phobos, and Biscuithead. My goals with this event was to win one fight and lose as many times as I could to see where I could improve Catastrophe, but it didn't really go as planned. Alright, that's all of the pre-event info. Time for what y'all came here for. My first fight was Catastrophe versus Pain, which Catastrophe won by knockout, but it was a pretty boring fight, so I decided to not include it since it would have added another 3 minutes to the video. So the first fight that I'll be showing in this video was my first match with Impact against Bruin. This would be my first time ever driving a fully functioning Impact in a fight, so I wasn't sure how I would do. Bruin is the Season 1 Kerbal Champion and is obviously a very dangerous bot, so I had to be really careful with my driving, otherwise he could get a shot on Impact's weapon motors and kill them, or he could rip Impact's spinner out of the bot since Impact had close to no bracings against horizontals. In order to make the driving less stressful, I designed some new motor guards for the weapon motors to protect them against horizontal hits. They definitely weren't as good as a sloped wedge, but they were all I had, and it was better to use them than to not. The fight begins, we both get spun up. Bruin is not moving out of his square, so I close in, and I get a really good hit that rips off his spinner. He gets a decent pin over here, but I managed to escape, and I delivered a pretty big hit that ripped off his gyro ring. And then over here, I flipped him over. So yeah, the fight's basically over, but Nick is requesting for me to flip him over to continue the fight. And I didn't know this at the time, but after that first big hit that ripped off Bruin's spinner, one of Impact's weapon motor wires fell off of the Bua's battery. So now Impact's a half weapon power, and it's really hard for me to flip him over because now the weapon's only running on one motor, so that's half the torque, and there's a lot of increased friction because that one motor is now spinning the weapon and the dead mode. Bruin gets counted out, and Impact wins by knockout. Alright, now on to Catastrophe's second fight of the event, which would be against Phobos. Like I said earlier, Phobos is the Kerbal Season 2 champion, but it has also done really well in other events, like winning Bricks Cascade in 2023, and it was the runner-up of the BrickCon 2023 event. The 2023 version of Phobos only has 2 or 3 losses with a ton of wins, so I was pretty worried going into this match. Alright, fight starts, we both get spun up, we go weapon to weapon, and I manage to rip off one of Phobos's forks. Some more weapon to weapon in the corner. He delivers a pretty big hit to me, which knocks both of us forward. My weapon gets stuck in his fork mount. And I make a driving error here, so he gets two of my forks off. Back to weapon, and I managed to rip off his last fork. And now I'm chasing him down. So he delivers 3 pretty big hits here, but it doesn't really do anything. Some more weapon to weapon. I'm just pushing him around the arena. Over here, his weapon axle looks like it slid out of his weapon system, so it's no longer connected to the gears. Not sure how that happened, but its weapon, Phobos's weapon randomly went down, and it definitely did not overcurrent, so that's the only explanation. And it's sagging on one side, so... So I'm alternating between delivering a few small hits and pinning him against the wall. So another pin over here. So, on one of these hits in the last 20 or so seconds, I managed to push his weapon axle back into his weapon system, because right after this fight, it was able to spin again. So, the fight goes the distance, and Catastrophe wins by a unanimous judge's decision. Fight number 2 with Impact was against Poppy. After my fight against Bruin, I was a lot more confident in my driving with Impact. For this match, I took off the motor guards and swapped them out for 4 extra forks to help me get under Poppy's 3 black separators. I rarely have a plan when I'm going into a match, but the main thing I would be aiming for was the center fork on Poppy to reduce the likelihood of his suplexer getting under me. Alright, so the fight begins. I'm trying to get around to Poppy's sides, but Impact has little reach and bite, so I can't really grab onto anything. Poppy's doing a pretty good job scoring up to Impact and getting under me. And I'm trying to go for the middle fork, and over here I managed to rip it off after the suplexer bounced up a little bit. So, still trying to get a good bite on Poppy. So over here I get to its sides, but still I can't really grab onto anything important. And I drive right into Poppy's suplexer. And he holds the grapple for the full 20 seconds. So I'm waiting for him to release the grapple so I can self-right and continue fighting. And then over here I break free. I make my way to the wall and I manage to self-right. And half of Poppy's drive just cuts out randomly. And one of Impact's weapon motors fell off right after I self-righted. So, with one weapon motor, the weapon can't do much, so I'm resorting to pins over here. So I'm trying to get around to the side or the back to pin Poppy, because if I try to pin him from the front, he might be able to grab onto something. So I'm trying out the weapon to see if it will do anything, and I rip off a few little pieces, but nothing important. And to end off the fight, I pin Poppy against the wall. The fight goes the distance, and Impact wins by a split judge's decision. Catastrophe's last preliminary match would be against Biscuit Head. After doing a grudge match with Impact against Biscuit Head on Friday, I learned that Nick only really needs a single flip to change the rest of the fight, and that he could chain them together really easily, so I could not afford to make a mistake here. So the fight begins, and I immediately rip off his Uno reverse card. So I tip him up over here, and I'm trying to take advantage, but he manages to break free. I deliver some more small to medium hits. I managed to get around to his back, and I ripped off a few little pieces over there. Biscuit Head really likes doing wheelies every time he goes forward, so I'm taking advantage of that to get under him. Almost got under me over there, and over there, and he misses a little flip. So I'm trying my best to stay squared up to Biscuit Head, because if I let him get to my size, he could throw me out of the arena if we're in a bad spot. So over here, he pushes me to the wall. He's trying to flip me over, but he flips himself, and I take advantage by pinning him to the wall. So I release, and I try to get a good hit in. I managed to tip him up a few times, but no good hits. So at this point, I haven't really done any noticeable damage to Biscuit Head. I've just, pushed him around. Over here, he gets a flip on my side, but it doesn't really throw me that much. And then I tip him over, and I miss the pin over there. Get under him one last time, and the fight is over, and because of my fight adrenaline, I accidentally hit him another time. Catastrophe is now 3-0, so it'd probably get a top 4 seed. Impact was 2-0, and if it wins its last preliminary fight against Phobos, it would join Catastrophe in the group of 3-0 bots. For this match, the plan was to only go weapon to weapon since Impact didn't have enough reach to hit anything else on Phobos. We both get spun up. I deliver a really good shot to him here, and he ends up getting stuck, but I decide to free him to keep the fight going. I rip off one of Phobos' forks. He gets a pretty good counter shot on me, and I try to line up another hit, but I end up getting my weapon stuck inside of Phobos' fork mount. Phobos rips off one of my forks in return and gets a few free shots on me before the unstick is called. The fight continues. I back up to get spun up. Trying to get lined up here. Pretty big weapon-to-weapon collision. I rip off his last fork and deliver 2 really good shots here, and he is flipped over once again. He self-rights. Still trying to go weapon-to-weapon with him. He rips off another one of my forks. Delivers a pretty good shot there. And now it's more weapon-to-weapon. And then another huge weapon-to-weapon collision, which sends him flying. He gets back up again. I'm still chasing him down. I'm trying to only go weapon-to-weapon here. He rips off another one of my forks. So a few small weapon-to-weapon collisions. He gets a free shot on my side. Impact's drive motors are starting to burn out now, so it's getting really hard for me to move around the arena. He delivers another pretty good shot to my side, doesn't really do anything, and his weapon overcurrents. So now I'm trying to chase him down on the with the burnt out drive motors, and I deliver a pretty good hit there, which flips him over. Now with 30 seconds remaining, the drive motors are really starting to slow down. This hasn't happened before, so I was trying to deal with this while trying to beat him up, so was a little annoying. So now he's, because my drive motors are burnt out, he's able to push me around a little bit. We get stuck in this little lock. The fight ends and Impact wins by unanimous judges' decision. Alright, that's all of the preliminary fights. Now on to the bracket matches. Impact got the number 1 seed and Catastrophe is right behind with the number 2 seed. Impact's first match would be against the winner of Wheeled Scorpion versus Cold Front, and Catastrophe's first match would be against the winner of Poppy versus Bad Luck. After round 1 of the winner's bracket was done, Impact would be fighting Wheeled Scorpion, and Catastrophe would be fighting Poppy. So the fight begins, and Impact's Booiz is giving me trouble. I hit the button to start up the weapon, but it didn't work until like 10 seconds later or something. So I deliver a pretty good shot there, rips off some of the wheel, or some of the decorations on Wheeled Scorpion. I'm trying my best to get a bite on him. He gets me pinned in the corner over here, and I barely dodged that flip. That probably would have sent me out of the arena. Trying to get an angle on him, I rip off 2 of his forks in 1 hit, and I deliver another massive shot, and that flips him over and sends him into the corner. So I'm letting him self-right over here so we can continue the fight. He gets back up, can't really bite on anything, and I deliver another pretty big hit here. He just didn't escape from the corner when I gave him the opportunity. He self-rights again, and I deliver another pretty big shot. I probably could have waited there. So over here, it looks like he's not able to self-right. He misses 2 self-rights there, so I go back to the starting score, and I power down the weapon. And on 1 second left on the countdown, he self-rights, and the Booiz is giving me trouble once again. So the spin-up is way delayed. It normally takes like 2 or 3 seconds to spin up, but this time it took like 10 seconds. So I'm trying to get a good hit on him, and over here, I managed to punt him out of the arena, which was not what I was expecting. So, fight is over, and Impact wins by an out-of-the-arena knockout. Next up is Catastrophe versus Poppy. I don't have much to say about this fight. It's basically the same as the Impact versus Poppy fight, so I would just be targeting his center fork. Fight begins, Poppy gets me with a box rush, and I back up in time so that his suplexer can't grab onto anything important. Over here, I managed to rip off one of his forks, and I flipped him over. If I didn't make a driving mistake over there, I could have taken advantage a bit better. So now I'm aiming for Poppy's center fork, because if I get rid of that, it's a lot less annoying.
Legos might be broken after this fight. Okay, I saw another bit breaking off. Oh, that's it.
So over here, Poppy pins me to the wall, but releases early.
Okay, a bunch of pieces are fluttering off.
And over here, I get a good pin. And I make a small driving mistake here, and he manages to tip me over, but the self-rider works like a charm and gets me back up. He gets a good pin over here. We're still pushing against each other. I manage to escape. And then he pins me to the wall again, but I end up damaging his suplexer when he feeds it right into my weapon, and I reverse the pin back on him. So now I think Poppy's drive overcurrented or something, and Nick is taking a second to swap it from Ludicrous to High and back to Ludicrous.
Why is there a little tiny wheel on there? Maybe that's why one of them goes so slow.
Is that all you got? Bring it on!
So the last 6 or so seconds of that fight cut out for some reason, and I'm not going to redo it because it took 30 minutes to upload. So, you guys didn't really miss much there, and Catastrophe wins that fight by a unanimous judge's decision. Alright, now on to round 3 of the winner's bracket. Catastrophe finally meets Bruin in the bracket. This was a fight I was looking forward to. For this match, I swapped out the self-rider and forks for the longer bar and the anti-horizontal wedges. The main reason I gave the wedges new fork mounts was because I was expecting to fight Bruin. and Bruin has forks, so I would have to put some on so that he wouldn't get under me every time. Bruin had a new configuration for this fight with 2 super long forks with some axles to act as catch points. So the fight begins, we both get spun up. Some small weapon-to-weapon collisions there, and Bruin manages to rip off one of my 4 forks. His blade has stopped temporarily, so I'm trying to take advantage, and his 3-mile-long forks manage to catch the back of my wedge here, and he pins me to the wall. So I'm trying to break free, but the axle on his fork is just stuck behind my... The fight resumes. I'm still on his forks. I managed to break free, and he gets stuck on the top of my wedge. He gets his blade back up to speed and delivers a pretty good shot to the back of my wedge due to a driving mistake I made over there, but it doesn't do any damage, and my wedge deflects a few more shots from Bruin, and now I'm trying to box him into this corner, but he's doing a good job evading me until here where I pin him to the wall.
Yeah, pinned again.
So, the right side of my drive cuts out for a second, and then I managed to push him into that wall, which stops his blade again. And then over here, I managed to catch him when his blade is spinning up. I deliver 2 pretty big shots to the bottom of his blade, which rips it right off. And I pin him to the wall over here, but he somehow escapes. So now, Bruin is weaponless, and he has to push me around with his forks, which are getting pretty annoying now. I can't really do any damage to them since I cannot get under the forks. I deliver some good shots to the side of Bruin over there. And over here I managed to flip him over, but he somehow self-rights, and he pushes me with his annoying forks again. And they get stuck on the back of my wedge for the second time in this fight.
Oh yeah, the timer. I forgot about the timer.
So now, another unstick is called.
Fuck no.
Stop. Oh yeah, one's missing. Stop. We gotta stop. Because they're Legos. Yo.
The fight resumes with about 10 seconds left on the clock. He gets me with the forks again, and I get stuck for the 3rd time, but I manage to break free, and then I deliver a good shot to his forks, and the fight ends. Catastrophe wins this fight by a unanimous judge's decision. After suffering from the long forks, it was time for Impact to have a rematch with Biscuit Head. On Friday, they had a grudge match, and Biscuit Head absolutely dominated that fight, but now Impact has its batteries fully charged, so it would be a much closer fight. This was another match I was looking forward to. Fight begins, I get spun up and deliver a pretty good shot to Biscuit Head, which tips him over. Another really good hit there, which rips off one of his forks. And I make a driving error here by staying in the corner, and he manages to pin me to the wall. I escape here, and he pins me to this other wall, but I break free once again. So, a bunch of little pieces are flying off of Biscuit Head. I'm not sure where they're from, but I'm guessing it's from the fork mounts. And I deliver another pretty good shot here, which rips off another one of his forks. So I'm doing my best to not expose my sides to Biscuit Head. Yeah, all Biscuit Head needs is one flip to win the match. If we're near a wall, he could throw me out of the arena. Over here, he somehow grabs onto my side, and then he pins me to this wall, but I don't get flipped over, fortunately. And I deliver 2 really big hits here. And now Biscuit Head's flipped over. I don't know what happened to the flywheel, but I'm pretty sure it broke. And I'm asking Nick if he wants me to hit him. Nick says yes. So I flip him back over to continue the fight. At this point, I've bent up his flipper so badly that he can't even use it anymore. So now I'm not really holding back since there's nothing to be afraid about. And I'm just delivering more shots to Biscuit Head. The ref apparently decided that Biscuit Head was not showing enough controlled movement, even though it is clearly moving towards the blue square. So, yeah, Impact wins that fight by a knockout. After a flawless run, Catastrophe and Impact meet each other in the winner bracket finals. Whoever won this match was guaranteed top 2, and whoever lost was guaranteed top 3. Fight begins, we both get spun up. I managed to get to Impact's sides over there. We go weapon to weapon a few times. Another shot on Impact's side, and I managed to tip him over here, but Nick self-rights nicely. So over here I make a driving error and Impact gets to my sides, but it doesn't really do any damage. And then he delivers a pretty good shot there, which rips off one of my forks, and another one goes there. Impact rips off another one of my forks. And he delivers another pretty good shot there. And that is one of Impact's forks. So we go weapon to weapon over there. The ground is just littered in orange brick separators. On one of those weapon to weapon collisions in that corner, I managed to knock off Impact's right drive wire. So now half of his drive is just gone, and now I'm pinning him against the wall over here, trying to get some control points. I'm pretty sure that was one. Yeah, that was one of Impact's forks. And now over here, Impact's visibly slowing down, and you can see on the screen that his that one of the wires is just off. So he took off another one of my forks over there, but I managed to get him against the wall. So I hold the pin over here to get some more control points.
You can only pin for 10 seconds.
And then I try to push him out of the arena, and I manage to do that. And now Impact cannot move, but the fight ends early, so he doesn't get counted out. So Impact somehow won that fight by a split judge's decision, which doesn't make any sense at all. When I asked the two judges that voted for Impact why they voted for it, they told me it's because Impact did all of the damage in that fight, which also makes no sense. Impact ripped off 6 forks, which should bring the damage to 3-2 or maybe 4-1 in favor of Impact, but for the sake of argument, let's go with 4-1. But Impact didn't do all of the damage in that fight. Catastrophe ripped off 2 of Impact's forks, plus some random small pieces, which brings damage to 3-2 in favor of Impact. And Catastrophe also disabled half of Impact's drive and knocked a third wheel out of its mounting points, which should bring the damage to 4-1 in favor of Catastrophe, because drive damage is weighed more than damage to forks. When I asked the judges about aggression and control, they just didn't answer me and kept going on about how Impact took off 6 forks and did more damage, even though Catastrophe basically crippled Impact at the end of the fight. Aggression and control should be 2-1 in favor of Catastrophe, so there's literally no way Impact won this match. Anyways, small rant over. Catastrophe is now in the loser's bracket, and it is fighting Biscuit Head in an epic rematch. Whoever wins this fight gets a second shot at Impact. The fight begins, and I get a few good shots on the forks on Biscuit Head. I knock off a few small pieces. I tip him over here, and he couldn't self-right for some reason, so I got a few free shots on him. He gets to my side over there, but fortunately he did not throw me out of the arena. He gets to my side again, but I managed to get off of the flipper just in time to dodge that flip. I tip him over again and rip off one of his forks. He gets a good pin over here. Get a few more good shots on him. Tip him over again. Trying to take advantage, but I made a driving mistake there, and he got to my side. Fortunately, he did not get a flip on me. Over here, I make another mistake, and he flips me, and he almost gets me out of the arena, but he helps push me back in. Got a few more good shots on him. Now that Biscuit Head is missing a fork, it's much easier for me to get under him, and now I'm just pushing him around the arena, and I get a decent pin over there, but he manages to escape. He gets on my side again, but something happened to his flipper, because it didn't deliver a full flip. I'm not sure if it broke or something after that big flip in the corner. He gets to my side again in this weird angle, but I managed to break free before he can pin me to the wall. And then over here, I get a good pin on Biscuit Head. There's a few seconds left in the match, and I'm trying to get a few more good shots in, but the fight ends before I can do anything important, and Catastrophe wins by a unanimous judge's decision. That match was much closer than the previous one. I think it's because of the fact that Biscuit Head had brand new pristine forks for this match, while I was still using the ones that Impact just chewed up. Anyways, Catastrophe and Impact now meet each other in the grand finals for the third time in their careers. Every time these two bots have been to the same event, they have always made it to the finals together. Alright, anyways, I think that's enough talking. It's time for the finals. We both get spun up. I get a good shot on Impact. Impact rips off one of my forks. And over here, I managed to get under Impact, and I pinned him against the wall over here. My weapon got lodged in between his weapon uprights, so we got stuck. So an unstick was called. So the unstick is over. I managed to rip off one of Impact's forks there, and he gets off one of mine. There goes another one of my forks. We go weapon to weapon. Another one of my forks flies off. Impact delivers a pretty good shot there, but it doesn't do any damage. And I make a terrible driving mistake over there, and I lose 4 of my forks in a single hit. So Impact delivers another pretty big shot there. Catastrophe was doing pretty good for the first minute of the fight, but after Impact delivered that shot that ripped out 4 of the forks, the tide of the fight completely turned, and over there, he throws me out of the arena, but I somehow crawl back in. And there goes the last fork on Catastrophe. Impact still delivering some pretty big shots. Another one over there. And then over here, I forgot what position my self-rider was in, so it took me a bit too long to self-right. And then Impact hits the self-rider at a really weird angle, and it falls out of its mounting point, so that's not good. And there's the fight. I think it's pretty clear, but Impact won that fight by a unanimous judge's decision. I have no argument with the decision this time because it's definitely right. That was still a super close fight, and I'm pretty sure I lost by a single point. I would score it the same as the first fight, but I would flip damage to 4-1 in favor of Impact. So anyways, this was an awesome event, and I'm so glad I was able to compete there. Catastrophe and Impact did way better than I could have ever imagined, going basically undefeated with only 1 loss against each other. Both bots have gotten some massive improvements since this event in preparation for the next Kerbal event in early August of this year. Technic Engineer and I plan on attending with our bots to defend our titles. I would highly, highly recommend going to a Robot Combat event. They're always a ton of fun, and everyone is super friendly. I want to thank Nick for hosting this amazing event. I put a link in the description to his channel. Please go check it out and show him some support. If y'all are interested in competing or going in person to watch the next Kerbal event, you can find some info on Nick's channel in the Kerbal Season 3 footage video, or in the Kerbal Discord server, which is also in the description. If I if I don't sound very enthusiastic, it's because I'm sick while I'm recording this video, so I apologize for that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.